Hello, this is a trailer for a discussion on Dr. Jordan Peterson's emergence. Um, this is a very interesting topic and an interesting trend on the internet. Why are young men in particular, but young people in general, flocking to him? And quite frankly, the reason why they're flocking to him is because he is showing the traditional Socratic Western philosophical foundations of the interior and the individual. We have been constantly hit by tsunamis of collectivist drivel as well as Freudian drivel in the universities. Everything is about having the perfect society and making sure everyone is kumbayaing as hard as they possibly can. And that doesn't really strike true to the human soul because we only have one life to live. We can only do so much. And governments have a pretty bad track record, particularly the Marxist governments that these people keep pushing, but they refuse to look at history for whatever reason, or they don't know. So he's representing change, being the change you want to see in the world. And in order to do that, you have to be objective about yourself and the world. And that may mean that if you really, really, really want to be a force for good, you might have to question some of the drives within you and the ideas that come through your head that may not be good. Maybe they're selfish. You know, this whole idea of not everything that glitters is gold, or just because it feels good doesn't mean it's good. And the left is representing just this hodgepodge of emotionalism that, well, we see what happens to them. I mean, even the professors aren't very happy people, as we can clearly see. But there is an issue that I have to bring up with Dr. Jordan Peterson. And that issue is we have to be careful not to fall into pure stoicism or analytical Platonism, which is what St. Augustine found. You know, he would hang with his philosophy boys and they talk and make a lot of noise, but no matter what, it seemed as if they themselves couldn't change themselves. They couldn't overcome their temptations, and he actually jested about it. He's like, "Here we're talking about all these wonderful things. We can't change ourselves." Um, and there's two reasons for that. The first is the psychological. You know, Carl Jung and Professor Jordan Peterson talks about this. He talks about the shadow and the animus and the anima and integrating that. Um, that's why people also like him because he gets into that. And he talks about this fact that the shadow and all these inner drives may not, or they're just raw power instilled within us that can be used for good or bad. And of course, there's also this crazy idea that just because someone isn't perfect doesn't mean they can't change for the better or for the worse. And so he goes into that. That's very important for the budding young adult who has hormones going through them and they're in their prime and they have these drives. And that, you know, that's also much better than what we've been getting, which is this staunch like traditionalism with the law, with just do it, just say no, just be good, right? Which is all weirdly, you know, been turned by the left into something which is be a nice, passive, completely nonviolent, ahizma, you know, namaste person, and that's being nice is good. Of course, being nice also means you can have no integrity when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to treating other people well, when it comes to that. So there's a lot of hypocritical baloney going on there, as we can see. But um, there is a problem with what Dr. Jordan Peterson is saying. And the problem is that you cannot really tackle the shadow healthily without adjusting your entire viewpoint and a lot of your energy into where do I put that inner energy? Because is it not true we live in a society with, you know, desk jobs and cubicles and lawyers and lawsuits. It's not it's not a man's world anymore. And for that matter, this stuff applies to women. Women are often expected to be a certain way. Now they're expected to be career women. And again, maybe there are a lot of women that want to be feminine, motherly women. But of course, you could always make the opposite, saying that maybe some motherly women are meant to be um, also more than that, forces for good in other ways. There have been women that have also been activists, but good activists, not this crazy, might makes right, we can do whatever we want activism, which is nothing but just hedonism. I don't know what else to say on that. Um, and so we have to adjust our lens at the world. Of course, we want to be functioning adults, but we can't be these ninny weeny, kind of fruity intellectuals who talk about it. But when we go home, we have all kinds of addictions. We feel depressed. We feel messed up, and so on and so forth. And a lot of that, in my opinion, comes from the idea that we are trained to not objectively look at psychological issues and energy, but also not be able to tamper it with spirituality. And what does that mean? Well, what I mean is, I'm going to make a stream 1 p.m. Saturday Eastern again, which is going to look at what people that are my age or younger are into, which is comic books. I'm going to have two characters I'm going to mostly get into. I might throw in the biblical character and what's going on with the debates, but I might, that'll be saved at the end because that's a whole other thing. But the first is Spider-Man, and he has a dark side. And the whole story with Spider-Man's symbiote suit is that with great power comes great responsibility, and that if you have too much power, you can quickly be corrupted by that, and that's completely understood. But then the second is the basically was my Spider-Man, and that was Kurosaki Ichigo from the Japanese cartoon Bleach. He is much more in depth, and the way it's tackled is through this, very Japanese samurai Buddhist martial arts philosophy that the warrior spirit, the the drive that makes us sometimes want to fight and hurt people can be heroic, but it still needs to be tampered. But it's still very important, and it can actually make or break, a battle or a civilization or saving your family and friends. And it doesn't paint his aggression as evil necessarily, just how he uses his aggression. And that's what I'm talking about there. Um, this whole idea of nice is good or nonviolent is good is really a really bad idea. And Dr. Jordan Peterson addresses that. But the problem is that how do you tame such a horse? And is the vantage point of, oh, just be a good citizen enough? With the existential problems of, you may die the next day, you may have you may not succeed, or you may be in a position where you do not have the ability to affect people that well. You just don't have the resources and connections. And also the fact that there's something within the human soul that actually lines up with seeking something transcendental, some sort of transformation, some sort of connection with glory and beauty that does not really line up completely with just being a better citizen in fill in the blank country. There's a lot of and that's what I think also needs to be tackled, which is, and that's also very important, not just because it can help with what Dr. Jordan Pierce is saying, but it also is important to address the narcissism, the self-love cult that's going on, where it's like, oh, I want to be cool, I want to show off. That can only be unwound by an understanding of interior beauty and agency. Interior reflecting something excellent, in whatever you do for the sake of it, almost like an artistic thing. Or for an athlete, pushing themselves to the limits for the sake of the art of athleticism. And now for the warrior, it's much easier because warriors train to be ready for anything, right? But the Kurosaki Ichigo and his arch nemesis Sosuke Aizen really go well into this whole, is aggression bad? Is passivity good? And it breaks down this whole, big scary aggressive person is bad, cough Trump, and nice passive person is good, cough Joe Biden. So if you want to talk more about that, please come out to the show, and please bring your own thoughts. And I hope to see you all there. It's something I'm really excited for because it's always been on my mind for a while. Take care and God bless.